So, January 6th, 2021, the U.S. Capitol was attacked. And, to really get a handle on how something like that could even happen, we're going to do something a little different. We're going to walk through that day step by step, through the eyes of the people who were actually there. All of this comes from the incredible oral histories and reporting in Nora Neus's book.
And this quote, this really gets to the core of it, doesn't it? It was both shocking and not at all surprising. So how can that be? How can an event be a total shock to the system, but at the same time, when you look back, feel almost inevitable? That's the paradox we're going to dig into.
Okay, so to really understand what happened on that day, you can't just start in January 2021. You have to go back. The book argues that the story of January 6th, well, it didn't just pop up after the 2020 election. It was more like a long fuse that had been burning for years.
And this quote here from Jacob Glick, who was an investigative counsel, really breaks down the recipe, so to speak. He says it wasn't just one thing. You needed a few key ingredients to come together. First, you needed this paramilitary movement to even exist, but that wasn't enough. You also needed someone like Donald Trump, seen as an ally, to basically give them the green light. Without all of those pieces in place, Glick argues, January 6th just wouldn't have happened.
So let's trace that path. According to the source, the real story starts way back in Charlottesville in 2017. Then you jump to April 2020 with those Liberate Michigan tweets about COVID lockdowns, which some saw as basically a call to arms. And then, of course, there was that moment in the presidential debate, the stand back and stand by comment to the Proud Boys. Each one of these moments was like another step on the ladder, making this kind of rhetoric and action feel a little more normal, a little more okay.
All right, so the stage is set, the fuse is lit, but what was the actual spark? What was the thing that made it all happen right then? Well, it all came down to a single tweet. A tweet that one writer would later call their marching orders.
And here it is, December 19th, 2020. Big protest in D.C. on January 6th. Be there, will be wild. It's short, but it's got everything. The date, the place, and a very specific tone. That phrase, will be wild, well, it wasn't taken as just a casual remark. For many, it felt like a promise.
And you can see the effect almost instantly. Online, in places like the Donald.win, people knew exactly what it meant. There was zero ambiguity. This comment says it all. Well, shit, we've got marching orders, boys. It wasn't a suggestion, it was seen as a command.
And you know what's wild is that none of this was a secret. The planning was happening right out in the open, and the warnings were coming in fast and furious. The FBI got a tip on December 26th saying their plan is to literally kill people. Please take this tip seriously. I mean, come on. A Capitol Police informant said this was the first time they'd been truly worried. And even D.C. Homeland Security was saying violence was likely. The red flags were everywhere.
So when we get to the actual morning of January 6th, it's almost like two completely different worlds were occupying the same space. You have this one perspective from a rioter named Justin Winchell, who saw it as a happy, patriotic day. A lot of children, people selling, their T-shirts. But then you have Officer Daniel Hodges, who saw something else entirely. He saw men in tactical gear, clearly ready for a fight, not just a speech. It's a total disconnect.
And that disconnect, that idea of it being just a rally, it was about to completely fall apart. We're about to see how things went from a political speech to a full-blown assault on the U.S. Capitol.
So let's just get our bearings for a second. The rally itself was here, at the Ellipse, right by the White House. But from there, a massive crowd, thousands of people, started making their way down the National Mall. And their destination? The Capitol building.
And this is a really important point. This wasn't some spontaneous thing that happened after the president finished speaking. Nope. Thousands were already marching toward the Capitol while he was still on stage. And the Proud Boys? They had left the rally way earlier. There's this surreal detail of them stopping for tacos before they went on to lead the very first charge.
Then, at 12:53 p.m., it starts. The first flimsy barricades, they were basically just bike racks, are rushed. The police are just completely overwhelmed by the sheer size and aggression of the crowd. And just like that, people are swarming up the steps of the Capitol, and the assault on the building itself begins.
And what happened next? Well, this was no longer a protest. Witnesses on the ground described it as a brutal, chaotic, hand-to-hand battle to get inside the building.
I mean, listen to this quote from photojournalist David Butow. He said it felt medieval. Can you imagine? Not like something from the 21st century, but like a scene from some old history painting of an actual hand-to-hand battle. That's what he was seeing through his camera lens.
Meanwhile, inside the Capitol, it was just pure chaos and terror. You had staffers hiding under their desks. One aide to Speaker Pelosi wondered if she was going to be raped. Rioters were in Pelosi's office, saying things like, "Yeah, we're coming, bitch." You had the incredible bravery of Officer Eugene Goodman, who confronted a mob all by himself to lure them away from the Senate floor. And then in the House chamber itself, an Iraq war vet, Representative Ruben Gallego, was literally teaching his colleagues how to use a pen as a weapon while they were putting on gas masks. Just unbelievable.
All of this violence, all this chaos, it started to funnel down to one critical choke point: the doors to the Speaker's lobby. This was the last barrier between the mob and the members of Congress who were trapped inside the House chamber, and the rioters started smashing the glass.
And then, at 2:44 in the afternoon, the day turned deadly. As rioters smashed through those doors, and Ashley Babbitt tried to climb through the broken window, a single gunshot rang out, and she fell. Eventually, hours later, the Capitol was secured, but the attack left behind this deep, lasting scar on the country. So let's talk about that aftermath, both in terms of the human cost and what it means for politics. In the weeks and months that followed, the Department of Justice kicked off one of the biggest investigations in U.S. history. Just to give you a sense of the scale, we're talking about more than 1,240 people charged with federal crimes. But the thing is, the movement that fueled that day didn't just vanish. According to experts like Mary McCord, it just changed tactics. Instead of these big, national confrontations, the strategy shifted. The new focus became local, taking over school boards, county boards, election official positions, basically a decentralized, ground-up approach. And of course, we can't talk about the aftermath without acknowledging the incredible human cost. It goes so far beyond what happened on that single day. We know that several police officers who defended the Capitol later died by suicide. The physical injuries were bad enough, but the invisible wounds, the traumatic brain injuries, the PTSD for officers, staffers, and journalists, that's a huge, huge part of this story. So that leaves us with a pretty big, and honestly, pretty unsettling question. The source argues that the fight for power just shifted its location, from the Capitol building to your local city council or school board. So you have to ask, is the insurrection actually over? Or has it just changed its shape?